Hey guys, we're here again for another episode of True Crime, Myths, Legends, and More. It's a brand new year. It's January. So we are ready to go. We've got all kinds of stuff for you, all kinds of things planned for this next year. And we are going to kick it off right this year. We have got, if you guys haven't had a chance to check out my 3-part series on the Delphi murders. That should be available right now for you guys to check out. In that series, I'm going to do my best job of giving all of the evidence for the pro prosecution side. Then episode 2, we'll do the pro defense side. And then I'll give you guys my opinion and what I think happened or what I think didn't happen and where I think this goes in the future. We'll talk about all of that stuff. And you guys will get to come in there and have your say and tell me what you think and give me your ideas on all of that. But today we have an incredible guy, and I don't know how we haven't met face to face since then, or since we've met online. But we've got Phil Chalmers here with me, and he has been all over the country doing all kinds of talks. He's been doing them for years. It is he's done over 40 years of speaking with serial killers, and he's got a show out there. He hosts a podcast where all the bodies are buried. He also has several books out there. A new one that is coming, My Friends Are Monsters, which chronicles his 40 years of speaking with serial killers. So without further ado, we will bring on Phil himself. How's it going, Phil?
How's it going, Jeff?
Man, it's good to finally meet you. It's been a number of years, and somehow we have not crossed paths face to face. While we cross the country doing all kinds of stuff.
Been following you for a while.
Yeah, it's been cool because I've had quite the evolution from starting the whole card game thing and bringing that to the market, and then really jumping in on all of my background when it comes to the whole true crime space. So it's been kind of neat. And then, I go and I look at all your stuff and I'm like, dude, Phil has been doing it for 20 plus years before me. It's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. I launched in 1985, and the first 2 decades I spent with juvenile killers, school shooters. Was on a show called Killer Kids on A&E. I wrote a couple books. One of my big book was Inside the Mind of a Teen Killer, where I kind of laid out why kids kill. And my first interview was a banger. It was the satanic triple murder of Sean Sellers, who was the youngest modern day kid executed in the state of Oklahoma. Then I was right into Charles Manson, Son of Sam, BTK, and on and on. So I've been doing this a long time, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know that is where we got connected in the very beginning, because I worked in the Department of Juvenile Justice and I worked directly with kids. Some of them were in similar situations or were moving in the direction to end up being that next kid that was going to be plastered all over the news. And we know that, it's really kind of it's much more, we see it a lot more now. And, there are all kinds of reasons for that. But it's, I have your book sitting up on my shelf, that book specifically, because I thought that, what better way to understand that mind better than to look directly at it and see where it comes from. So I always think it's fascinating. I know you got the banner behind you there, your talks now that you're going around and doing. You have the serial killer, the experience, where you talk about all the myths around these different serial killers and how it all happens. So tell us about that, man.
Yeah. So the first 20 years I was dealing with juveniles. Then I kind of switched over to serial killers. When that big book came out in 2009, I started training law enforcement. So from 2009 till today, I've been training law enforcement in the FBI. So when FBI agents, when police chiefs, when sheriffs go to conferences, I'm the speaker. And that's what I've been doing for a long time. I just decided to do something more on the fun entertainment side. And I sat down with my wife and said, well, where do we want to spend our nights? Where do we want to spend our nights? this is my 40th year this year coming up, and I said I'm going to stop doing the law enforcement training. I want to do something more fun. And we said, how about wineries and breweries? We love wineries and breweries. So, bang! I came up with this show. It's a 2-hour evening show called Serial Killers: The Experience. It's fast moving, 2 hours of. It should be in a theater, a big theater, but we're doing it at wineries, breweries, and we're just launching country clubs. And it's a lot of fun. We have a serial killer call in live. I talk about the myths of serial killers. I break down why killers cannibalize, necrophilia. I show crime scene photos. And can you imagine 80% of true crime people are women, and they're sitting there with a glass of wine, loving. They love it. It's going good. So we'll be hitting every state here. We're starting June of 2025. We're just gonna crisscross the country all year long in a bus. And so yeah, that's the latest. I have a book coming out. I have a TV show. I just signed a deal with Chris Hansen from Dateline. He has a True Blue network, and he does the Predator thing still on True Blue. And I'm going to be doing this killer interview every week on True
nice.
Blue. Really about that.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. Yeah. I know, I've been out there too. I do a bunch of the different conventions and stuff that I go to. I often stand up and, do a talk on serial killer psychology and things like that, which has been kind of cool because then I put out the whole book series and, I'm doing that whole thing. But it's neat because, you talk about moving out of kind of the law enforcement end of things. And I have found myself ending up falling into that, which has been unexpected for me as like a game designer, that I would end up in the law enforcement space. But like, I've got people, there's a division of the Department of Homeland Security that uses Killers the card game when they work with their staff. And like, I would have never expected that to be a thing, but it is. And it's, there's school districts that want to carry it for their true crime classes. And there's just this whole world that when you get into this field, you don't know. There's such a hunger and a need to understand these things. And the only real way we get to understand them is going straight to the source. And you have been doing that forever. So you mentioned some of the killers that you've spoken to, but like, give us a rundown. Who all have you talked to?
I kind of joke that I've forgotten more of the serial killers I've talked to than most people have talked to. Like, I don't know, toolbox killers. I mean, the list is pretty endless. Copycat Zodiac, the Gainesville Ripper, the Hillside Strangler, Tex Watson. I mean, the list is endless. I mean, anybody. To me, though, what's funny, Jeff? I thought about talking to you today, and I thought, what? There's two things I want to say that are kind of funny to me. Number one, everybody's an expert, right? These people they listen to podcasts, watch a TV show, read a book, and they're like, all of a sudden they're a criminologist. So that's kind of funny. I don't think you can really be an expert unless you talk to the killers myself. The second thing is everybody wants to compartmentalize these serial killers into Dahmer, Bundy, and Gacy. That's not the way it works. When people ask me, what's the one thing they have in common? The one thing they have in common is nothing. That's the one thing they have in common. You have to think outside the box. I have a lot of killers that don't fit they have no upbringing. They don't have sex with their victims. I mean, there's a lot of different people. So I like the killers that are there's a lot more interesting killers than Dahmer, Gacy, and Bundy. They're interesting, but man, some of the guys that we talk to, the staging and the cannibalism and the kidnapping, torture, dismemberment. I mean, that stuff's fascinating to me. And I'm going to drop a lot of bombs in this new book coming out, coming after a lot of people, the government, a lot of groups. And the biggest thing is the myths. I mean, a lot of people think they know serial killers. And, working with the FBI and working with, there's a couple of colleges that have really awesome serial killer wings on the college. We've come up with some really cool myths, and I'll share a couple with you today if you want to hear it. But I think it'll turn everything upside down because, first of all, serial killers only have to kill 2. That's always a debate on every serial killer Facebook page. The FBI says you only have to kill 2 with the cooling off period. So that's crazy. And the biggest myth I'm dropping is most serial killers are not white. So. I hear this all the time, white male, mid to late 20s. Well, if you use the profile, white male, mid to late 20s, you're gonna arrest 7% of serial killers, because most serial killers are black males and they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. They're older than we thought. So in my new book that comes out, it's called My Friends Are Monsters. It'll be out this spring. I'll have the longest list of black serial killers ever published, and there'll be over 1,000 in my book, and most people can't name one barely. So it's obviously going to be a banger.
That's that just that right there is really does it turns the whole this whole idea of what we've always believed on its head. And you know, I do a lot. I love to dig into that and to dispel a lot of those things, because there's these ideas that we have. You got to remember that when the FBI, you know, started investigating this stuff, they were a pretty stuffy organization that had a very, very tunnel vision on who they were looking for and why they were looking for them. So it, you know, we come from this department, and then we look at what reality is, and reality doesn't say the same thing. And it is it really is a case by case circumstance, right? Each one of them is different. They have completely different motivations. One of the things that I always try to do, like, I struggled with mental illness for a long time, and as a kid dealing with abuse and, you know, all the things that happen in my family, I struggled with that. So I have an understanding of why people would go in the direction that they did, because I was close. I was right on the precipice of being one of those people. And I had to realize, like, what is it that changed my perspective and my understanding? And I think for myself personally, it was just that I have more self-awareness than most people do, because most of the killers have very little understanding of themselves and have very little empathy for the people around them. So it's interesting to see that and how that plays out in the lives of all of these people. I'm excited for the release. I would love to look at that and kind of dig in, because there's a lot of things that we just don't know and that we don't understand.
And I tell people, if you don't know any black serial killers, I mean, really, like, the cases that I'm covering are crazier than any of their white counterparts. I mean, you know, the only serial killer to go to prison and continue his killing spree and kill a female corrections officer, dump her body in a dumpster and get away with it, I mean, is a black male. I mean, America's deadliest serial killer is a black male. America's youngest serial killer is a black male. I mean, you're missing out. And the reason we don't know this is the media won't talk about them. So,
you know, it's interesting to me too, because I go around and I do conventions, and the people that don't know who Samuel Little is just unbelievable to me. Like, I have, you know, I have shadow boxes and stuff with little soil samples in it, and I have one for Sam Little. And I have a friend of mine who was actually working with the FBI to find some of the bodies that were dumped here in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, because she believed that her cousin, I believe it was her cousin, was killed by Sam. And so she was looking into all the letters and all the drawings and stuff that he had done to see if they could find a correlation to where these bodies were dumped. Now, they were doing some construction up where the old, what the hell is it? The Beverly Hills Supper Club was in Northern Kentucky. Up above that, they're putting up new houses. And when they were up there digging, they found a body in a retaining wall up there that they still haven't released, you know, where that body came from. But there is the possibility that that was one of the ones. It fits the descriptions that Little gave of the area where he drove and dumped the body on the side. So, you know, it's not been positively ID'd yet. They've been working on that for months now, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that case. But yeah, so I've always kind of had a soft spot for that story specifically because it hits so close to home with friends of mine that are here in this area. And of course, Sam Little, you know, if you watch the one documentary that's out there, it's proposed that he killed 93 people over 30 years. And, this is a guy that was in and that he was in and out of jail. They had plenty of opportunities to catch this guy. He spent plenty of time in jail for nothing misdemeanor crimes. And he could have been off the street long before they eventually caught him. But yeah, it's amazing.
He's killed more than Bundy, Dahmer, and Gacy combined. Yet most people don't know him. And I've been talking to Sam Little so long. I talked to him when he said he was innocent. He was crying about being innocent, and then all of a sudden he said he was guilty, and then he started confessing, and then he went on his, I call it his U.S. tour, and closed 50 cases. So because I've got one of his drawings, when you come out and see me for the winery brewery show, I bring my true crime museum with me, so you can see one of his actual drawings. I just grabbed one of Jeffrey Dahmer's pieces of silverware, one of his spoons from his Milwaukee apartment. I mean, we have a really cool setup, and you can come out and tour a little museum and take in a 2-hour show. So that it's really exciting. I'm excited about that. But the book's going to drop some bombs. And, Jeff, since you have an interest in the juvenile homicide, I come after a lot of groups that I believe we're manufacturing juvenile killers in the country with the culture. And back in the days of Leave It to Beaver, they protected kids. They didn't let kids be, people market to them or sell them pornography or violence or whatever. But now it's open season on kids, and kids as young as 5 are playing Grand Theft Auto, shooting cops in the head, having sex with hookers. It's a crazy culture we live in. And then our government stands in DC and they're shocked that this shit's all happening. Fucking, you've allowed this to happen. I'm coming at, so I'm gonna come after a lot of groups. The pornography industry, that should not be allowed for kids under 18. I don't care what adults do, by the way, but for kids, come on, man.
Absolutely.
A lot of the kids I interviewed thousands of juvenile killers, and they all told me, oh yeah, all of them play great, violent video games, and a lot of them, they said that was the introduction they had because their brains aren't fully developed. Even some serial killers talk about movies that inspire them, or things like that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have those things, but I mean, to market them to 5 and 10-year-olds it's bothersome to me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree 110%. I think that there is a serious correlation between the first-person shooter games that we market to our kids, this idea that they're constantly disassociating from real life. They're living in a fantasy world, which we know is kind of like the fertile ground, whether you're talking about a serial killer or you're talking about a serial rapist or you're talking about a child abuser, whatever. They live in this fantasy world that they build, and we give that to children by putting them in front of a screen 10, 12 hours a day where all they're doing is interacting online with people, and they feel zero real connection with those people. And then we wonder how they can go to school and shoot all their friends and other people around them. They have no connection to these people. They have no real relationship other than a fantasy one online. And so, of course, they feel nothing because they haven't built that social interaction with people. They haven't built those relationships. And we see it in the medication that we're giving children. The fact that they can't relate to other people is a huge issue. And, we're going to see results from that for years and years and years to come. Because what happens when they become adults? What happens when they're still disconnected and they can't hold a regular job? They can't get any money. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future, because those seeds that have been sown these last 20, 30 years are certainly coming to fruition now.
I started doing this in the 80s. I was shocked that kids were killing their parents. That's what it started out as. And then, or it was like a satanic murder or something. And then in the 90s, it was a school shootings. I'm like, I can't believe kids are shooting their classmates. This is crazy. And then, we went into, they started shooting up colleges and, malls and movie theaters. And now we're to the point now where a kid can say, I think I'm going to kill the president. I think I'm going to kill a CEO of a healthcare company. This is the shit this is what I'm talking about in my book. The shit that you're seeing today over the next decade, you're not going to imagine the violence that's coming to this country.
Yeah.
By the way
Well,
we're raising kids. So
yeah. I mean, you raise them.
nobody's safe. Taylor Swift's not safe. Trump's not safe. Biden's not safe. Nobody's safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anybody could be a victim. I mean, unless you have a Secret Service, and even if you do, you can see a couple months ago that even you're not safe. So it's crazy, and nobody's talking about this. And I don't know. It's shocking to me what's happening in our culture. But people are making money off it. Our country's become money and fortune and fame, and that's basically it. Nothing. People don't really care about anything else. It's how much money can you make? How famous can you get? How many followers can you get? That's it.
Yeah,
that's how people
for sure.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting to me, especially, you know, you just mentioned old Luigi Mangione and all the stuff that's going on around that right now, because it's a huge topic. But the people on the other side of that, and this scares me, the people that jump up and hold him up as a folk hero, and that he's like this person that we should all aspire to be because he doesn't give a shit about the society and all of this. And I'm thinking, man, that's scary when the people that were just saying that we shouldn't have guns are cool with other people getting gunned down in the middle of the street. Like, what the hell is going on? You know, in our society where people are very, very quick to jump on these bandwagons if it fits their worldview. That's a scary fucking place to be. And I'm not sure, like literally this society that we live in is a powder keg. And we've given people for years this liberty to go out there and say whatever they want, do whatever they want to, and we wonder why we're getting the results that we're getting, and that it isn't that people are, you know, thinking of these new ways to peacefully protest. No, they're getting more violent because we've allowed them to get more violent. But then the thing is, and this is always the question that I wrestle with, is how do we go from where we are now to changing that? Because really the only way forward is, you know, what happens in other countries is they crush the opposition. And that's also not a healthy way to handle it, because that breeds more anger and resentment. And then those people band together, and then you see people that overthrow the government. So it's like, you know, and I tell people, I've got friends that are very militia minded and everything. And I always tell them, I'm like, well, that's great. But who the hell are you going to put in power? Like, you know, because they're going to be corrupt too by the time they get there. So I don't know what the answers are to any of that.
It all starts at the top, Jeff. It all starts in Washington, D.C. The president, senators, congressmen, congresswomen. It all starts there. And until they get their heads out of their asses and seeing what's really happening in this country, the problem, well, I don't want, you know, I'm not a big fan of politics, but when you allow people to stay in power for 30, 40 years and make millions of dollars, obviously that's fucked up. And
yeah,
that's not good for the average person in the country. Like, you go in there, you should serve 2 years, bust your ass, make some changes, and get out. And I think you'd see something different. The whole thing needs to change. And and I think you just said it, Jeff, and I think you know this, it's not going to change. Nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
The violence is going to continue. So
I always tell people that, you know, when we're talking about this, is the best, regardless, all we can do is figure out how to deal with what's here, because nobody gives a shit about us outside of us. like the big corporations don't care. The government officials don't care.
Well, people lose their families over politics. I'm like, these people could give a shit about you. Come on, man.
Yeah, they are busy being paid by all of the special interest groups that are paying them, and that's who they care about. They care about, hey, are we going to make this deal so we can get that extra $50,000, you know, under the table? And it's so ridiculous that we think that any one of them care. And I don't care what side of the political spectrum you fall. None of them give a shit about
No.
us as the common people. You, as a person, need to go out there and figure it the fuck out and do what you need to do to be successful in whatever way you want to be successful, because there are a lot of definitions for success.
Yeah, and that's why I'm doing the. I hate writing books. I don't know if you enjoy it or not. I don't enjoy writing books, but it's a necessary evil to get this message out. I'm really not a big fan of doing TV shows. It's a pain in the ass. I mean, it takes so much time and work and for not a lot of money, really. But it's the necessary evil to get the message out. The only way you get this done, you're not going to get the government to do it. You got to work with the people and get them fired. If enough people are fired up, things might change. So it's always been for me. I don't want to ban anything. I don't want to boycott anybody. For me, it's education. If we can educate people to what's really happening, maybe they'll band together and to make changes. So, anyways, the serial killer thing is my thing right now. I'm interviewing a lot of serial killers, a lot of killers. I don't really post about who I'm talking to because there's a lot of really bad people out in this industry. And
Yeah.
so everything's kind of quiet for me, but I can assure you, I'm talking to more serial killers probably than anybody right now. And with this new show coming out, I'm sending hundreds of letters out, and I think I'm going to bring something really cool to the people. This new show of killers. Not it's a serial killer. There'll be serial killers on the show, on the TV show, but there's also going to be crazy cases, and it's cases that you need to know about. But with the myths, I think it's important. First of all, I train law enforcement in the FBI. Many of them have no idea what I'm talking about. Like, they don't know. So if they don't know, I know the people don't know, right? Like, the number one way serial killers kill today is gunfire, right? So you have a guy out shooting women in the head in Chicago, there's no way anybody thinks the serial killer is on the loose. They think it's gangs and drugs. So there's so many things like that we're trying to educate people. I talk about like the MO, like you got the signature in the MO. The signature is a serial killer's calling card, right? That's crazy, and that's what I talk about in my show. Serial like BTK had two signatures that he always did. He always used the clove hitch knot, and he always bound their knees. He not only tied the hands and the feet, but he bound the knees. That's weird. That's a signature. Boston Strangler put a bow around everybody's neck before he left the house of the apartment. But the MO, the modus operandi, how people kill, does change. And I've heard a lot of people say it doesn't change. And that's how these killers get away with murder as well, because they sometimes do change their MO. They get better at killing, they learn things, or things just go south. And they like to strangle women, and the next one they stab, and the next one they suffocate, and the next one they drown. Same person, but their MO's changing. BTK killed the first 7 people. They were in the house. He left them in the house. The last 3 are put in plastic bags and taken away from the scene. Totally threw the police off because they have no idea that the MO does change. And those are the kind of things I'm beating the drum on right now in the show, in the book, is to, let's understand these killers and how they operate today so we can catch them before they kill again.
Yeah, well, one of the things that happens with all of that, and when you speak about the MOs changing, because they do, but as our technology gets better and better, these people that are killing are going to keep killing, right? They're going to do that. But what happens is they try to find new ways because they know if they do this or they do that, that they're going to get caught. So many of them understand that, and they're now trying to find ways to avert that. What looks like another crime. And for years, killers have been doing this. They'll go in, they'll kill somebody, but they'll try to make it look like a break-in, so it doesn't look like a series of serial murders. They've been doing that since the early 50s, right?
Yeah.
Even before that. So there are all kinds of ways, because not all of them, but some of them are intelligent enough to understand they don't want to get caught, so they're going to try to find ways to avert that. Even when you look at Ramirez was a guy that used many, many different methods of killing people. He broke into houses and stuff, but he shot them, he stabbed them, he strangled people. It's he never used just one, which is again why it took them so long to narrow down who was doing all these murders because they were only looking for one thing. And, we've gotten better with police departments actually talking to one another, but there's still a lot of ego there. There's still a lot of fights over with who's going to get credit for this and who's going to actually make this bust, especially when you get from your local law enforcement to the federal law enforcement. There's a lot of argument between that, which holds up tons of cases from getting solved because they don't want to share information. That's a real problem. Like, if our goal is to share information, figure this out, and stop these killers faster from continuing to do what they do, you have to have an open forum where you can look at all the evidence and have the right people looking at it to figure it out. And that doesn't always happen, even right now.
And on the backside, you're talking about the front side, but the backside where I go to prison and I get my number one goal is to get serial killer confessions or find bodies or close cases, and I'll get a confession, take it to law enforcement, and they're not interested. So
yeah,
who would think that a law enforcement agency wouldn't close a cold case? But what Jeff just said, there's politics involved. Oh shit, we didn't close that case. We should have solved it 10 years ago. You think they're going to be cheering for you when you call in with the confession? It doesn't work like that. So
no,
there's a lot of shit going on in the background. There's a lot, like I said, it comes down to money. Everything in the whole country comes down to money and fame. So obviously somebody has a good job as a law enforcement chief or sheriff or whatever, or FBI agent or whatever. They're like, I'm not fucking with my career. So no, let's not return that guy's phone call. And the guy's in prison already. Who gives a shit? That's kind of what we deal with out here. And and I don't like to mention any names, but there's other people out here trying to like solve cold cases, whatever. And I always think to myself, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
First of all, bodies are hard to find. First of all, you think you're going to go find a body? Shit, I've gone to find a body that I know exactly where it was and it's gone. But also just getting cooperation from the authorities is going to be very difficult. Very difficult.
Yeah. I did an episode with Bill Dorsch. And actually it was really well viewed and everything. But Bill has been working for 40 years now, trying to get them, to go back and look and close the rest of these unnamed bodies that were found, in the crawl space in Gacy's house, along with the possibility that there are many more bodies that have been never been identified, never even been looked at. And all of the hoops that he had to jump through to even get them to do the ground penetrating radar at the Miami apartments, where they found 13 or so anomalies. And then the police department never dug it up. They dug up one little section in a tent so they could say that they did it, but they didn't actually dig anywhere where the ground penetrating radar had an actual anomaly. So, but again, it comes all down to politics, right? They don't want to open up these cases again. They don't want people's names to be dragged through the mud, because what you'll find is that there's a lot of corruption and there's a lot of bullshit that happened to make sure that so-and-so looked better than they did. And so they could close this. And so no fingers were pointed towards Chicago, because it was all on the Des Plaines Police Department to take the fall for anything that happened. Yeah. So they don't want to do that. And you're right. It is. Somebody doesn't want the successful career that they've built to be smeared in any way and to take that away from them. There are a lot of politics involved with that. And it really is a shame, because there are families out there that do not get the justice that they deserve. They never get closure for that, because their family members are never found. It's never attributed to someone. And it is really a terrible thing that there's all this red tape that you have to go through, and all these feelings that you have to make sure you don't hurt.
Yeah, and not even, I wouldn't even say not even corruption, but it's just human nature. Like human nature, like we'll be working with the school, for example, and they find out a kid is possibly a school shooter, let's say. They will hush that, sweep that under the rug, quiet it down, because they don't want to alert. They don't want to cause concern with the parents. The superintendent, the principals want to keep their jobs. They're making really good money, 6-figure incomes. And it all comes down to what I said, Jeff. It's human nature. Money, it's down to money or fame. And anyways, that's kind of like, for those of you who are younger watching this is the battle you have as you go through your career, whatever you're going to do. And if you're going to follow this true crime thing, there is some resistance. There is, everybody's not going to cheer you on. I mean, it's just part of the deal. It's part of life, I guess. Everybody experiences it. But Jeff and I being in this vein, at this true crime thing, it's an interesting world that we're working in. And there's a lot of bad people in this world, like people that just want to destroy everybody. So you're working against that. You're working against politics. You're working against, people that are in for themselves. And you're trying to do what's right for the victims. But it's a battle, and I've been doing it for a long time, Jeff. Probably longer than you. I don't know how old you are, but I've been doing this for 40 years. I mean, probably older than Jeff. Jeff, you seem like you're 40.
Yeah, I am. I'll be 45 this year. So
I've been doing this since Jeff was messing in his diaper. So just remember that. I'm an OG in this game. People come in going to tell me what. Okay, you'll never see me argue with people on social media. I don't have time for it. I'm not trying to make a difference and make a living. But let me give you a couple more myths, because I think it's fascinating for people when they learn this stuff. So who serial killers are. A lot of people say because of technology, DNA, cameras, blah, 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 there's not many serial killers active. Well, the FBI says there's at least 50 at any given time. That's the one thing I disagree with the FBI on. I think there's over 100. Number one, you only have to kill 2 people. And number 2, most of them are truck drivers. So they're on the move and probably never going to get caught. We have 16,000 homicides in the United States right now every year. 4,000 go cold. So in 10 years' time, 40,000 cold cases. Somebody's killed those people. So sex trafficking, gang shootings, but serial killers are definitely a piece of that puzzle. And I believe there's an active serial killer in every big city at all times, like Chicago, Houston, Baltimore, even Cleveland and Cincinnati. So a lot of the stuff's going on right now, and it just, people don't know. A lot of these people are not myths that are killed. They just disappear, and people forget about them after a couple months. And that's kind of the battle that that we have with fighting serial killers. Is most of them are truck drivers. They have an active crime scene, an active moving crime scene, and it's a great way to dump a body in this state, put the clothing in this state, and it's a interesting view on it. So I believe there's a lot of active serial killers, at least 100. And also another big thing that I want to say is 93% of serial killers are men, right? So most serial killers are men. So Jeff, we've got about 4,000 American serial killers. So that means about 300 females. Most people know one female serial killer. If you ask the average person to name one female serial killer, Jeff, what are they going to say?
Eileen Wuornos.
That's all they're going to say is Eileen Wuornos.
Yep.
And then I say, name another one. And my whole audience they're like, we don't know anymore. Well, Nanny Doss, who just hit the wire this week on Google Alert, she killed 11 people. So she's the deadliest female serial killer. She's the giggling granny. But, just kind of breaking it all down and looking who's who. And, since COVID, homicides up 16,000, mass shootings are up, school shootings are up. The suicide rate is doubling in many populations, especially our young female girls. So we have a problem in this country of violence. And our leaders at the top, all they want to do is politicize it and blame certain things. Assault rifles, this group, that group, instead of really looking at what is really happening here, and how do we really stop this from happening? One thing I want to say too is, since most serial killers are men, the average person in America, because they think of lust killers, which is only 60% of serial killers, or maybe even 50, who have sex with their victims, they think of, obviously they're killing women. Well, it's 50-50. Guys watching this, you can be killed by a serial killer just as likely as a female. It's actually, okay, I'll be honest. It's 51-49. 51% of victims are female, 49% are men. Gacy, Dahmer, Bonin, these guys, they don't kill women. I mean, they kill men. And so those are some of the myths we'll be talking about, Jeff. It's going to be a fun book. And the TV show, we're going to not only interview serial killers, which we got a lot lined up, but we're going to interview if I see a crazy case, I'm going to interview that killer. There was a stepdad who had a fantasy of having sex with his dead daughter-in-law or whatever, stepdaughter, and he did. And he killed her and filmed it. Jeez. That's the kind of shit we're looking at, just cases where you may have only killed one person, but you're a fucking serial killer.
Yeah.
You may have only killed one, you got caught, but you're a serial killer. You know what I mean?
So I agree with Steve G and Angelo. I believe that there should be a different definition. I don't think that it should be 2 with a cooling off period. I think that there are a lot of people out there that have that mindset, that have that belief, and if they had opportunity, they would certainly go on and kill in a serial fashion. I think that we sell it short because there are plenty of people that only killed one and ended up in jail or ended up getting killed themselves. If they would have had opportunity and would have survived, they would have killed many, many more people. When you talk about women,
let's create a name, Jeff, right now. Let's create a name, just like somebody came up with serial killer for the guy or the woman that's killing that is going to be a serial killer, but they got caught. You know what I mean? They should have a different definition, right? Like that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I know that Steve has been fighting for years to get them to put a new definition or a new classification into the DSM-5, or I guess now it would be the DSM-6, because 5 is the latest one, to put a classification in there for that for a disorder that is around that mindset that causes people to move into that. And I think that there is a good argument for that because it's prevalent enough. Obviously, you just gave a bunch of the numbers that there are people out there doing that share that. That doesn't mean that they have all the same issues that are happening. They're all unique individuals that end up with this one overarching drive to go and kill other people for whatever reason. I don't know. Have you talked to, and you mentioned women serial killers. The newest one that I know of, and this is just about a year and a half old now, was Rebecca Allborn up in Columbus. I believe she killed 4 men. She was luring them to her to like hotels, offering them drugs and sex. And what she ended up doing is she ended up overdosing them on whatever drugs she had and then robbing them. And she did that to at least 4 men before they caught her. And it was interesting because they immediately came out and said that they believed that she was a serial killer. And of course, that case, when it happened, it was big news in the Columbus area. And then you don't hear anything about it anymore, which is always interesting to me.
See, no one knows that case. No one knows that case. So
yeah.
You, local. Yeah. There was another one recently, Jeff, that was a lady at a West Virginia hospital killing veterans. I mean, but unless you're local, it just no longer makes the big national news anymore.
Yeah. Dude, I go around because I go to all these different areas for conventions and stuff. Literally every weekend that I'm out there, I hear at least 2 or 3, sometimes 4 or 5 local stories about killers that have been in that area that I have never, ever even heard of. Like, I would have had no idea if they didn't tell me, including, what the hell is his name now? He's got the Apple show, Blackbird. What the hell is his name? I can't think of his name. Anyway, he went out. Yeah, he's the one that went out and he would go do the reenactments and he would pick up women and kill them when he was doing all of his reenactments and stuff. Anyway, I was in Indiana and this happened in Indiana, or at least the guy lived in Indiana. And I had a guy come up to my booth and said, "Man, you got to add this guy to the game." And I said, "Okay." And he gave me the rundown and he said, "My buddy has written 3 books about him. I live next door to him. He did all the shit that they're saying he did. I knew him." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll add him." And he's in there. And then, like, I think it was 6 months later, the show on Apple came out. And now a bunch of people know who he is. And, they're saying that he was more prolific than Bundy and, going out there and doing all this stuff. But, it happens all over the place. And I think you're absolutely right. In all of these cities, there are people out there that are doing that. And, all you got to do is pay attention a little bit and know that our society is not as safe as it once was.
And you're never gonna, if you're just following national news stories or even social media like Facebook, Instagram, you'll never get the cases. You have to do, like I do a Google search every night. I have an automatic Google search on school shooter, serial killer, mass murder, because a lot of these are local cases and they never hit the national wire. How do I come up with 1,000 black serial killers? A lot of work and a lot of local cases. And the numbers, I continue to get the cases every day. But yeah, the media won't tell. The media is not telling you what's happening. There's not really very few people in my shows know any black serial killers unless they've. The only ones I know are the Atlanta child killer, Williams, and they know the DC snipers. And if they're lucky, they'll know Sam Little. Other than that, they don't know who these guys. The Southside Slayer. They don't know the Baton Rouge serial killer. They don't know any of these guys. And some of these guys, their cases are unbelievable. The Warwick slasher. The cases are fascinating. So one of the cool things, I want to tell you, it's real cool. This is we do every year on this serial killer the experience tour. We do two things. We change up every year. We do a deep dive on a case, and we have a serial killer live call. So this year we have the long haul trucker calling in, Delmas Colvin. He's from Toledo, not far from you, Jeff. He killed 50 people, he claims. But we also do a deep dive on a case, and this year it's the Taco Bell Strangler. One of my favorite cases, the Taco Bell Strangler. And I was joking, saying not only will the food at Taco Bell kill you, but the fucking manager will. It's crazy. But nobody knows. Hell, I'm speaking in Charlotte, and they don't know the case, and it's in Charlotte. So, because it's a black man. But he killed 11 women and 10 women while he was the manager of Taco Bell. 3 of them were like his employees. It's a crazy case, man. So we do a deep dive on that, and we have a live call. The audience at the winery, they got their wine in their hand, and they're raising their hands, and they get to ask the serial killer question. So they actually get to interview a serial killer themselves right here on the spot. And so we're kicking that tour off. Well, I'm always touring, but official tour starts in June of New England, and we're going to work our way all across the country, and we'll end up in Florida. It's a 12-month tour. So
nice.
Yeah, come out and see that. I think you'll like that. And check out the new book. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I do post a lot on Instagram and Facebook. The podcast, we ended after 20 episodes. Dennis Quaid owns my podcast. It's called Where the Bodies Are Buried. We did 2 seasons with him, and I decided I want TV next. So now we're working with Chris Hansen's company, and all that stuff's going to hit the book and the TV show in the spring, probably March or April.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Yeah, everybody go out there and check out all the stuff that Phil has going on. There is a lot that needs to come out. There are a lot of things, and I'm so excited to be able. This is one thing I have to say. Now, I'm 45, right, or will be 45, and you've been doing this for 40 years. Mm-hmm. Why is it that I'm the one that looks like the old guy here?
You're a young buck, man.
I'm just saying. Like, look at all this, man. I
got the same thing, bro.
Oh man, I don't understand it. Like something happened. You must have found a fountain of youth down there. Or something.
So I'm married to a little bit of a younger lady. I have a beautiful wife, and she loves fitness. So my fat ass is up at 3 a.m. and at a 45-minute HIIT training at 5 a.m. every morning. And problem is, I love food and wine and drinks too much. That's my problem.
See, I've got
all these lines. Look at all these lines and wrinkles. That's from 40 years of doing shit. So Jeff, you'll get them soon.
Oh yeah. I've got plenty, man. I'm looking up here and I'm like, Jesus, the gray hair. I'm gonna be Snow White here soon. It'll be good. But yeah, I
want to say something to you that I don't know if your other guests say, but I've been doing this a long time, and I watch a lot of people and kind of keep an eye on what's going on. And you're doing some really cool shit. You got your hands in a lot of stuff, and for those of you who kind of follow Jeff, the stuff he's doing, everything he's doing takes a ton of energy, and a ton of time, and a ton of money. And the games, the cards, the books, the podcast, the YouTube, all this shit. I mean, he works real hard at this, and I don't see this about too many people in this game. But and I'm not saying this because you're interviewing me, because if I didn't feel this way, I wouldn't say it. But you're doing a great job. You got your hands in a lot of shit. You're working your ass off, and I can see it. Because I know what it takes to do what you're doing. Man, I get up at 3 a.m. I immediately start work. I go work out at 5, come back, and I basically work till 8 p.m. every fucking day, 7 days a week. And I love it. So I always tell young people, you want to have a great life, do what you love, and you'll work from morning till night, and you won't even feel like you worked. And you don't have to look forward to Fridays and fucking hate Mondays, because every day's Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do what you love to do. Do what your passion is. Do what your gifts and talents are. And what I've always decided to do is I'm going to take what I love, what I really love, and I'm going to figure out a way to make a living doing that. And I go out and I get paid well to do what I do. I make good money, and it's something I really enjoy. And I'm helping the victims as much as I can. I know you do that too, and that's what it's all about. So I won't be wearing Jeffrey Dahmer T-shirts, and I don't claim I love Ted Bundy or this stupid shit. But I'm fascinated with the cases. And everybody's like, what would make a person do that? What would make a person have sex with a dead person? Man, that's crazy. I mean, we're all fascinated with it, and we all want to know why. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why, Dahmer, why would you cut the guy's head off and put him in that pose? And the shit that they do. We all want to know why. And hopefully I can deliver some of those answers, and Jeff can deliver some of those answers. And for the next generation, that I won't be around much longer, so the next generation coming behind us. And that's what it's all about. And I also want to say, from the public and the people that are watching these YouTubes, I want to thank you for what you do. We don't know each other that well, but thanks for what you do. You have some great guests. I just saw the lady, EJ, I think her name is. That's with me. All good shit. I enjoyed it. And everybody out there watching this, philchalmers.com is my website. I do respond to emails. I will love to be friends with you on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. Check out my YouTube channel. Got a lot of interviews there, and peruse the 20 episodes on the podcast. My favorite episode is when I interviewed 2 Ted Bundy survivors. It's my favorite episode of the podcast, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, I have been talking to Kathy Kleiner Rubin a bunch. I just read her book, the one that just came out, and it's fascinating. I'm really interested. At some point, I would love to have her on here, because I'd really like to talk about, she has a very unique viewpoint on Ted Bundy that is not what people typically think of when they look at Ted Bundy. They look at him like this incredibly charming guy that did all this stuff and lured these women. And she says, absolutely not. He was not a charming guy. Most of the women, he hit them over the head and threw them in the car. Or he, swindled them in some way to get them there. It was not because they were just so attracted to Ted. And I'd really, I'd be interested to put that out there more, because I think people don't understand that. They lose sight of that.
It's a little easier if you look like Ted Bundy than fucking Otis Toole and Henry Lee Lucas, though.
Yeah.
Right? It's a little easier if you look like Bundy.
That's for sure. Because man, I got to tell you, seeing old Otis Toole in an alley at night, that's a creepy son bitch, man.
That's not good. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I will also put all of that information below. So for all of you guys watching this, you'll have the links and all of the things to all the things that Phil is doing. Make sure you go and follow him and hit him up and connect with him, because he is doing some amazing stuff out there. Go get signed up for the tour and go and check that out in all the different cities that it's going to be in, because you never know if I ever actually have any free time. It has been in the plan for the last 3 years that I'm supposed to go and see Phil live and hang out. We've talked about it a bunch, and it has never worked out at the right time in the right place. But you never know. We may end up in the same spot.
I'm coming to Bluegrass Vineyard in Kentucky. That might not be too far from you. So anytime you want to come out, look at my tour dates on my website. I'll get you a guest pass. Come check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. And
yeah,
for
sure.
the rest of you guys, I'm going to be visiting every state, all 50 states. So
nice.
You don't have to message me. Are you coming to Colorado? Are you coming to? Yes, I'm coming. I'll start posting the dates pretty soon.
Dude, I'll tell you, when you get up there to Alaska, you got to at least assume that 80% of the people that are in the crowd are already killers, right?
Been up there several times. I love Alaska. Anchorage is a shit. And yeah, that's where people go to hide, which I think that's great, man. I love it.
I got to tell you, man, like any place that ends up only having sunlight part of the year, I feel like they can do nothing but kill other people. Like, what the hell else do you do? Like, you got to fly everywhere there. It's so weird. Anyway, cool. Phil, thank you so much for joining us for this, brother. I appreciate it. And we will talk soon for sure.
All right. Be safe.
All right. You too, man. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Make sure you go and check out philchalmers.com. Make sure you're following all of that stuff, that you pick up the book when it releases in the spring. Check out the new shows that he's working on. Make sure you check out that tour and all of the dates that are coming up. Like I said, you never know. I may end up showing up too, and then we all get to hang out. So yeah, thank you for joining us for this this first episode of 2025. We are now in January, so we got plenty more coming for you, and we are super excited to bring all this stuff to you and bring all this, some new content to really get out there and, these ideas and dispelling these myths that we believe about these people and really understanding what's out there. So I believe that Phil has got his fingers on the pulse when it comes to that, and super excited for what he has in the future coming out and how that will affect all of us moving forward in this whole industry. So make sure you check out all the stuff that I have coming up as well. Of course, pick up a copy of Killers the Card Game. It's just after Christmas, and I will be getting around to all of the conventions. I'll be all over the place. So come out and see me while I'm out there, bringing some Killers love to you. And check out the books, True Crime, Myths, Legends, that's the podcast. Beyond the Headlines, True Crime, Myths, Legends. Yeah. Anyway, check out the book. It's difficult when you make the name of the podcast very similar to the name of the book. And it's good to get that crossover, but then there are days when I can't get it right. But check out Beyond the Headlines. We should, at this point, be to the publisher with Volume 2, Criminals. So Volume 1, Serial Killers, is out, available for you to get right now. You can go to Amazon. You can go to my website, scorpionlairgames.com, and you can pick up that or any of my games and any of my expansions. But Criminals will be coming to you soon. Hopefully, maybe spring of 2025, hopefully. And then we have Volume 3. I'll be working on Cults and Religions. We'll be working on Volume 4 on Assassinations. And then we'll even be working on Volume 5 now on conspiracy theories, because I got a special place in my heart for some conspiracy theories. I grew up on that shit, and I think it's fascinating. Even more so, I think it's fascinating, the psychology around that and understanding why people believe these things that are out there that may have very little basis in fact or may have a lot of basis in fact, and that are being covered up. I think it's amazing, and I think it's fascinating to understand the mind and all the different places we go. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Get with me, and we will see you here next week. for our live recap. If you have not gotten involved in our live recaps, make sure you do that. Go down and like and subscribe and share it so that it can get out everywhere and people can see all the content that we're creating. But yeah, get on those live recaps, man, and discuss with us these episodes that we're putting out, because this is where you have a voice, right? You can get involved and you can say what you need to say, and go out there and give us all of the wisdom that you have in all of this stuff. But thank you guys, and we'll see you soon. I guess I got to press end recording for it to end. Yeah, there we go.